Hey, it's Drybear. Today, while we wait for the big May content update coming up with the Destroyer and the Vaultin raid, I want to talk about what's going on in Korea right now that happens every single year. And that is the Anniversary Skins Community Skin Contest. Now, as Western players, we just joined the game a few months ago, but this does happen, and it's happening right now, where people will celebrate the anniversary of the game by allowing the community members to design and create mounts and pets and character skins, put them all on a artboard. Then the community will vote on which ones they like the most, and Smilegate will make those skins and put them in the game as the anniversary skins. So today I'm going to go over the anniversary skins that won last year, what they looked like in concept, and also what they looked like when they were finally in game. And we'll take a look at the submissions right now for the anniversary skin contest and look at some of the favorites. So let's go. But first, if you have any questions or comments for me, you'll find me live every day on twitch.tv/Drybear. Who knows? I might even be streaming right now. Now, I know one of the issues that people have with Western Lost Ark right now is the sheer lack of cosmetic content available to customize the look and feel of your characters. And honestly, I hope that we see more skins coming out more frequently for the West, especially since there's so much content that's already done and put into the game for other regions. And while I have played on RU and currently play on the Korean servers, I have no idea what skins they're going to bring to the West and when. But I have a sneaking suspicion that they will introduce the 4th anniversary skins for 2022 into the client and hopefully in all regions simultaneously. Since it is an anniversary, it's a singular event that everyone should share in. They did that recently with the Makoko skins, where they had a celebration for everyone playing the game. They did that almost nearly simultaneously. We got the patch shortly after, maybe a week or two after they did in Korea and Japan and Russia. So here's hoping that this happens with the next anniversary set as well. So these are all the submissions that existed for last year, 2021. You can see all the winners here at the top. All of these have been created and put into the game as actual skins. We'll look at the concept, and then we'll look at what they turned out to be, and then we'll end the video by looking at all the submissions that exist on the board right now for 2022. For Warrior, we had these really cool, almost red and abyssal fell energy green combo ones. So this was the winner for Warriors. And it's placed into the game. We'll look at that in a second, but these look really cool. And I honestly, looking at the weapons, you can see Destroyer, you can see Gun Lancer, Berserker, and Paladin in order there. And they both made into the game in different versions. They actually have different armor as well. So they have the green version here and the red version next to it. And to be honest with you, I would love to have skins like these right now for Warriors in the West. The artist listed here is Veloper at Cillian, and the concept work here is excellent. I mean, the way he's laid this out, I mean, it needs to be a little more functional, but he's got the arms out here as well. So this work is excellent. And this is how they ended up in game. I think they lost a little bit of the silhouette from the concept, but I think having both of these is really cool. I can see having one set on one of the warriors and then one of my other warriors having the other set, and having that variety is really cool. The next skin for 2021 comes from Condensed Forest at Carmine, and it features this very, I mean, a little risque, but it does have that kind of vibe to it. You know, high stockings. It's got the long flowy robes in the back and the red. Got a little bit of the almost like this Scarlet Witch energy coming off, and then of course it has the fox ears as the topping here. And one of the things I really love about this skin, seeing it run around in Korea and all that, you can see a little more detail down here, some variations. The one they went with in Korea is the far left. This is obviously very Flame Fox Yo-Ho inspired, and we may actually get a Night Fox Yo-Ho at some point. But you can see how this came together here. One of my favorite parts about this is the weapon set that comes with it. So we've got these little gauntlets and extra pieces here. This is the Glavier weapons on the right, but in the middle of the screen, you can see the Soulfist got this glowing, almost blood fire orb as a weapon. And I think it's one of the best Soulfist cosmetic weapons in the entire game. Now, again, as with any skin that gets ported over to the West, it's possible that this skin does get censored in some way. And I hope not. I hope we get almost all the content, if not all the content, in its original form, but we'll just have to see. But at least we get to see what it looks like for Korean players, and then kind of wait, hopefully, for one of these 3rd anniversary skins to come to the West. Next are some gunner skins that are very formal. It actually reminds me so much of Esdeath from Akame ga Kill, if anyone has watched that anime. But this is a gunslinger here, and we'll see how it looks in game in a second. But I think they actually had 2 different versions of these. The weapons are very intricate. And then obviously for sharpshooter here, you've got artillerist, and then for Deadeye and for gunslinger, the weapon rotation here. But this is the original concept as it was designed, and they kind of took characters from in model or in game and then drew over them to show what the skin could look like. And as we scroll down here, we'll see the different weapons. And I actually really like the artillerist weapon. It's one of the smaller form ones, but it has a very different feel than some of the others. This would be Scouter here on the right with the SMG, and then Sharpshooter and Deadeye as well. So the male gunners got the all black uniform with the kind of gold, almost silver gold dressings. And then Gunslinger got the all white. But once you see it in game, there were alternate versions for both with different stylings. And actually what's cool about these is because they're so formal, you can mix in the head accessories or whatever leg cosmetics you want to create your own look. And for mages, we got this, I'm not even sure what, it's very formal wear. I don't know if I'm cultured enough to comment on where exactly these are from. You got a little bit of this veil coming down on the top. You've got a little bit of mesh going on here, a lot of black and white. So it leads to this nice regal look, and you've got a lot of gold coming through here on the weapon. But this was used for the mages, and I think actually this is one of the most used 3rd anniversary skin sets in the game. Like, obviously there are a lot of mages in the game as well, but this kind of you know, I guess these would be high-waisted black pants with the knee-high boots. You come down here and you'll be able to get all this. So for the bard, the sorceress, the arcana, and the summoner would be able to use these, and they came together nicely. You actually do see a lot of these mix and matched in Korea with people walking around with their mages, and I think they went a little wild with the weapon set as well. The Arcana weapon looks very fanned out and intricate. The Summoner weapon is very thin, but the Bard weapon is thick and wide. It's got this huge, almost antique looking harp aesthetic to it. And then the Sorceress has a lot of thin lines. It reminds me of a more modern look, or maybe a more contemporary look with some cool uniqueness to it. And for the Assassins, this is one of the skins they got for the Assassins. So it's gonna be Shadowhunter, Reaper in Korea, and then Deathblade. And this one seems like a mix of a few styles. It almost has that kind of Corsair, almost pirate aesthetic to it, but then it kind of binds itself down to be a little bit more royal towards the bottom. So as we scroll down here, we see the setup here. This is going to be one of the skins that was given for the Assassin and the references they used to create. It's impressive to see the community members going to excessive detail to getting these all lined up. And then when we see them in game, we can see the variations that they added. So they were able to create the original one, and they added some variations with the same kind of frills, but maybe just different placement for how the clothes line up. Shadowhunter weapons look really, really unique. They're almost like twin swords being fused together on both sides. The Deathblade weapons are a little bit more formal and thin silhouette, and then the Reaper's got this kind of chain jaggedy look to it. And the mount that won was done by Cool Itself at Kazaros, and it ended up being this almost Batman Begins style motorcycle. And you do actually see these a lot being rode around. It's probably one of the more favored mount skins in the game. And they actually have tons of effects. They have these lightning effects as people get on and get off of them as they move in and out. And the mount skin fits some of the anniversary skins so well. It feels like it's almost Final Fantasy in origin. And the pet that was chosen was this little Cuckoo Satan pet, which is probably one of the bigger pets in the game. He's got the Cuckoo Satan wide set back piece that he has with the kind of blacked out eyes. And I believe he came in 3 different colors. His normal colors when he's powered up, an alternate version with purple, and then when he's drained of power, and he's got that grayscale white and gray and black contrast with the droopy sad eyes. That is one of the versions for the pet as well. Now let's take a look at the submissions for the 2022 anniversary skin set. The first one we're going to look at is a striker skin submitted by Jutemru on the official Lost Ark forums. And to be honest, I'm not sure that I am someone who's cultured enough to fully grasp this, but the look that it has is very unique and striking. It's got this kind of tilted mesh hat and this very intricate overlaid robe on top. And you can see all the inspirations that the artist used to build the skin itself. And it's an interesting blend between probably modern Korean, South Korean fashion as well as some martial arts influence. This one is getting a lot of buzz right now on the community boards for one of the top skins. Well, let me know what you think. Is this something you'd like to see or have for your striker or would like to see in the game? Next is a mage skin. So for the West right now, we would have it for sorceress and bard. And this one's got asymmetry all over the place. The skirt, the top, it has a lot of different colors, and I like the cosmic star pattern with a little bit of the astrology dots and lines patterned into the outside of it. Unfortunately, this submission doesn't have weapon skins to go along with it, but you can imagine how unique they would look and how planetary and cosmic they can make the weapons, especially for the magic casters. Next up, we have a gunner skin. The artist has mentioned that they referenced Oriental fantasy with this one. Their forum name is Calm Deep, but this one's pretty cool. It's got some skulls going on to it, so it does kind of have that to me almost feels witch doctor-y, maybe because the skulls plus the gold trimmings and the tons of accessories, and they don't have the weapon listed here, but they do here. So yeah, a lot of the skull and bones and horns and stuff. So these ended up looking really wicked. You can see there's almost got these like scrolls, almost like they've got sealed energy or they're cursed weapons. So scatter down on the bottom, Deadeye in the top, Sharpshooter, and then Artillerist in the bottom right. And this is one of those skins that I think would be really fun to mix and match. You can put in different hats or different tops on it as well. Mix out the bottoms, move around the weapons. Those weapons could probably go with many different skins. This is from the same artist, Calm Deep, except this one's for the assassins. Looks like they did a full line for a few of the classes. And this is their interpretation for the assassin, which I love those long coats, those cloaks that overshadow the kind of rogue assassin style characters in fantasy and high fantasy. Just makes them seem more mysterious. Obviously, they kind of included ways to help keep her femininity, but also cloak her silhouette on the top. This one would allow for a lot of different expression based on the appearance of your character as well. You can see it's got the same kind of color scheme, the scrolls, the extra markings on there, and then your character's hair. And then, you know, top accessories would change how this skin would look. And these would be the weapons. You have Shadow Hunter on the far right with those twin Shadow Blades. And you have Deathblade in the middle, which has a lot going on. I'm guessing this is a smaller dagger. I don't know what this extra piece would be for here. Maybe this just floats on the end of the tip. This would be the short sword, and this is the long sword the Deathblade would use. And on the far right is the Reaper weapon, which we don't have the Reaper in the West, but she uses a short dagger as a weapon. This next one comes from a poster named Ice Cubes, and it's for the gunners. This one has kind of Deadshot vibes from the DC universe, maybe just because it's the black and red, but it's got a little bit of Commando, a little bit of Far Future, a little bit of Cyberpunk mixed in together. We do have a lot of these gas masks in the game, even in the West and in other versions as well. But I like the thickness of the coat. Not all the gunner skins have. They're either very formal or kind of oversized. This one runs a little bit in the middle with its bulkiness, but then it's got a lot of intricate details. The red and the black play well together, and it's got that kind of cyberpunk, far future tech glow to it. And here they break down the materials, the color schemes, and how it would move and operate. And I think actually, I love how they had the elevated, almost like grates coming off of the wrist guards here. That play a strong contrast to the red, and then there's got the dark tones, almost like the charcoal color going through the rest of it. And these are the weapons they're envisioning for it. Very thin, kind of wicked. I can see there's a lot of actual real-life hunting bows that have this kind of profile. This scouter weapon almost looks like a toy of some kind or some kind of laser blaster, and then you can see the differences here, the Deadeye, and then of course the Artillerist. And I love the detail that they went into with the visual design of the weapons here. You can see that obviously when you're talking about every class, they have different animations you have to cover. So for multiple rocket launcher, you have to have the weapon open up and expand to the sides. When you have flamethrower, there's an attachment that comes down. So there's all these considerations when you put skins in for the game, but it looks like the artist has that covered. Next is a skin titled Moonlight Shadow, and the name of the submitter is just generic. I guess they wanted to be anonymous. But this would be for assassins. I actually, when I first looked at this, I thought this was for mages. Just because of the spires coming off of the shoulders here and the white and the flowing robes, it feels almost more magic than assassin. But I think that gives it a nice contrast to some of the assassin skins in the game. It feels almost like old world, like Archon, ancient civilization inspired. It's got these kind of broken chains here armor mixed in here and there, but it still keeps a lightweight form. But I think my favorite part about this concept is when the weapons get involved. It's almost like they tried to include this power source for each of them. So this would be for Shadowhunter. You have this really thin, almost scimitar-like arch here. It goes into a long spike and a smaller form at the bottom. But it has this angelic timepiece in the middle with this floating core that looks like it would power the weapons or cause some kind of effect for the weapons. And maybe this would actually play into the abilities or the way the weapon moves around. You get Deathblade in there too with the same kind of aesthetic. Looks like the basic weapons, they're envisioning that it would just be the same kind of shape. And then the long sword would be the one with that, you know, angelic energy core on it. Next is a striker skin, which is a lot more modernized. Yep, basically trousers and streetwear. And obviously the face and the hair has been styled with the whole skin itself, and you would have your own customization here. But I think the bomber jacket streetwear vibe works so well for Striker, especially with the way they bounce on the balls of their feet and they move around so fluidly. So this could be a cool one for Striker. This one comes from Alfred Tuna on the forums, and it would be for Warrior. It looks a little bit like the Shoeshire set, and I think that's actually what he's looking for here. It's just like a red, he's called the Courage Knight on here. But it's got that kind of dragon slayer vibe. It's got a little bit of fur on it, some spikes, some extra little lines here, plus the eyes on top. But I think this kind of aesthetic always works for warriors. Everyone loves a good dragon slayer kind of look for an armored character, which of course lends itself perfectly to warrior weapons. You have Destroyer here in the middle, which is just a giant dragon head. For Gun Lancer, you got the shield here with a dragon in the lance. And then for Paladin as well, you can see they've actually drawn the Gun Lancer lance to just have the lance go into the dragon's mouth when it folds up and then shoot back out when it's done. And then you have the Berserker weapon here on the left, which looks kind of like a Paladin weapon, but just because of the scale, right? When you see a Berserker weapon, the size a Berserker weapon should be that looks like this, it would look very thin compared to the other kinds of weapon skins we have for Berserker. Talk about a Monster Hunter aesthetic. You've got basically a monster fused into armor with giant weapons and a gun lance. This one screams Monster Hunter to me. This next one is for a female martial artist. It comes from a poster whose name in Korean translates to water dumplings. I don't think it actually is that. I'm just gonna do my best to try and call out the artists that are creating these, but this one be for female martial artist. And this one has a nice vibe to it, but the reason that it caught my eye was simply because of the Soul Fist weapon, which actually would be a giant diamond. And I think a floating weapon has enough uniqueness to it that you could do a lot of really fun things with it. So I like seeing skins that make the Soul Fist weapon into something completely unique that only the Soul Fist could accomplish. Next, we have a skin for Mage, and this one has very priest vibes to it. It actually kind of, it's almost like a black and white version a little bit of what you'd see from Armin before he turned into a demon. So it's a really cool aesthetic to it. So this would be for Sorceress, Arcana, Bard, and Summoner. And I really love the light teal turquoise that they've mixed in as a subtle accent. It's down in the crosses here that come off the shoulder pieces. It's on the back of the flowing pieces that go here, and then it's mixed into the weapon as well, which ends up looking really cool. So you have the shorter one for the Summoner, the longer one for the Sorceress. The Bard here has a very almost blocky shape to it, but I think it looks really cool and would look really cool with her holding it to her hip. And then, of course, you have Arcana's Yu-Gi-Oh device that sits on her wrist up here at the top. And then then this exists. This is a thing that it exists. It's there. Yep. And now I'm realizing, I guess it's a dentist. It's got a pill bottle weapon, and then like a scooper, and then a tooth, and a brush, and a giant syringe, and there you go. That's something that's in your head now. It's in your brain. This comes from a name that translates to Fog Cat on the forums. Next is a female gunner skins. This would be for Gunslinger. This one comes from a poster named Nargaze on the forums, but it's got this formal tech wear, very bushy and thick coat. You see a lot of these kind of shapes in future pop punk tech style wear. I mean, it's got like clasps and bangles and things dangling all over the place. So you got a lot of silhouette breaks. Obviously, you have the kind of the woman's shoulders showing, but then you have these huge, bulky shaped jackets on the outside that come down. The weapons play really nicely into it. One of the things that I always struggle with on Gunslinger and Deadeye skins is being able to see the weapons, which this one does have smaller form, but but it fits the whole vibe for it when you put it all together. This one comes from a poster named Roti Toti, that at least when it's translated to English, and it is a mage skin. They've titled the mermaid skin with 2 different variations. It's got the high mantle on the back that flows down to the sides, and I think the way they've shaped this here is they want it almost to feel like there's water rushing down based on the mantle that they have that they're wearing. And then you've got almost these coral-like shapes that are holding it up on either side of the shoulders. This is one of the few skins that actually I think would give purpose to the mermaid style fish ears that you can make on the customization for your mage. So if you have a mage with those ears, I think a skin like this would fit really nicely with it. With the side profile, you can see how the cloak or mantle would look from the side. You can see that it is very see-through and flowing. There's kind of that water element to it, and then zooming in on these little coral elements, there's underwater coral elements that stick off, which they incorporated into their weapon design. So more drippy, almost like Twilight looking, but with the coral and the gold on top. These actually look gorgeous and stunning. They have the little fish tails coming off the weapon as well. I think actually the far right is the top right is the sorceress, and I think actually the top left is the bard. So this would be the whole harp. The little drip downs would be kind of for the chords, and then this is what the bard would carry with her. And I like how big this would look on a bard, because this would be something she would be holding with both hands. And the Arcana weapon is really just this wrist wrap of coral, which would be really cool and unique for the Arcana. Again, a very unique weapon setup for them, and I think the one on the left here would be Summoner. Next is a warrior skin titled The King's Guard from a poster that translates to Bumbler on the forums. And this one isn't too flashy or trying to be outwardly unique. It really does feel like this would be the King's Guard, but I think something like this is a really cool vibe that a lot of people can get behind, no matter whether it's for a gun lancer, for a paladin, for the upcoming destroyer, or even the berserker. I could probably see more people using this on paladin, especially with the shorter sword and the fact that you can see around their weapon easier. But this one's pretty cool. Next is a striker skin that is absolutely striking. This comes from a poster whose Korean names translates to Good Trader on the forums. And this is something I would love to see them play with more on, especially the martial artists. They do have skins where when you wear them, they apply almost like a material on top of the skin. So you can do tattoos, you can do glowing emblems and runes and things like that. But this one has almost like a fighter of the forest kind of look. It almost feels almost like Princess Mononoke style to me. You've got like these like fangs coming down, and I love the shirtless top with the scars and the runes, the broken burning wooden hands plus the mask. And again, you can see the decal here, and I think the glowing hands plus the weapon would put this whole, like, I would love to have a skin like this on my striker. And you can see that the mask itself, maybe you can pull off the top and it becomes like a half mask on the bottom, and then you can see the striker symbol. I just realized the striker symbol for the class is on the shoulder and on the back, so that looks great. And they offered some color variations. If you didn't want to do the normal fire color, you could do the blue color for the flame or the purple. But this one has definitely one of my votes. This one's awesome. I can see a skin like this doing well in the West. For Western players, you can even make your own little fan art or posters out of the way this kind of aesthetic looks for the striker. Next is another assassin skin, the Cyborg Assassin. The artist's Korean name translates to loss of language ability through Google Translate, and I really wish that I was a little bit more familiar with the Korean language to be able to give this person better credit, but that's the way Google translates it, at least for my uncultured butt. But this is the Cyborg Assassin, and I love this is such a cool vibe to it. And I think this would actually create a lot of cool mixture options too. The top separated from the head item, the accessory, and the bottom customization on top as well. But many of the assassins use the full length of their legs for many of the animations that they have and how they move around. So something like this could be really cool. And a cyborg assassin wouldn't be complete without their cyborg cybernetic weapons. So you have the Death Blade on the right, Reaper in the middle, and then Demonic or Shadow Hunter would have 2 of these little, demon blades that would use. But the glow here, they could do some cool things with some cards or some extra effects, VFX, or even an effects mesh it would go over the top of it, but this would look really cool swinging around. And the reference they have for the bottom is actually the Halo sword. So if you imagine that effect on these weapons with the cyborg skin, that's pretty cool, man. They did a quick paint over of what it would look like in game, but you can see already with this vibe. I mean, it also shows off the hair color as well. So whatever customization you have for your assassin would pop really nicely with this. I don't know if they have any skins that have an animated tail like this. So there'd be a question of, you know, being able to put bones in for that and animate the tail and move it around. Or maybe they just keep it static, but they do have skins with tails in general, so maybe it's not too far-fetched. But this one ends up looking really cool. Next is Arcasia Special Forces for the Warrior. This one comes from Sharp's eye level on the forums. So this would be for your warrior classes. And I kind of almost feels like Final Fantasy VII Remake. The military is coming towards me with this one. But I love how it kind of it devalues the traps here and plays up almost like a bomb squad kind of neck brace around the neck, and then obviously has an exposed head. Looks like they even made a special logo for the Arcasia Special Force on top. And for something like this, you could make some kind of, I guess, more Arthurtinian, more real world technological weapons. This would be their idea for Berserker weapon on the back. You have Gun Lancer, which has a chainsaw for reasons, and Destroyer, which has a table saw, a buzz saw for reasons. Holy Knight has a chainsaw, and then Berserker, I'm realizing now, is a chainsaw blade as well. So, and then with the Gun Lancer, the shield would be kind of like a riot shield. But this is crazy. This is so wicked. Next, you have a mage skin from a poster whose name translates to Tangerine Spring. It's got this asymmetrical one-sided fur coat that goes around and wraps around. And what's cool about this one is you can see the skull horns for the top piece actually made its way into the weapon design as well. It almost feels like Kindred from League of Legends. But it has that kind of forest witch, forest warlock kind of look to it. And I think the effects on these could be really cool as well. I can see the bard one standing out a lot because that one could be the biggest, the skull on the front of it. Next, Dal Tofu, as it's translated, submitted this male martial arts techwear skin, which looks really cool. Again, I think that this is probably going to be a common theme for the male martial artist, that kind of lighter, slimmer male body type with lots of different fashion elements to it. This one would be a really cool one for Striker. And again, you can see the Striker logo being put into the back of the jacket, which looks cool. Next is from Rosanervik on the forums, and this would be for Warrior. And I love the enthusiasm here. I mean, this, I guess it's a little Makoko that's driving a Gundam for Warrior. I'm not sure how this would work for your character, because obviously the idea is that these would be these pieces could be broken apart, the helmet could be removed. So I don't know if the little pilot part would be something that would be feasible for implementation, but the other idea is that it is very Gundam-like. It's got that kind of, you know, red, white, and blue aesthetic to it, with the black undertones, metal and very heavy. And I guess the idea is that it is an actual helmet that goes over your character's head, but when you put the whole thing together, you have this little guy in there. I don't know if they would animate it and have him kind of like making faces and moving his hands around or what, but the idea is super unique, which would create some very unique weapons as well. So you have Berserker and Destroyer here, which these honestly look like they would be, I would find them in a toy box or like a toy container for my little Gundam. The Gun Lancer especially, you know, the kind of shapes that are in here. But this is gonna be a fun one. Obviously, they've done plenty of goofy, toy-like plushy skins, so I don't know if this one is really all that out of the question. Next is a skin for the Assassin. It comes from a Korean name that translates to 9 spheres, but this is a very common aesthetic that you're gonna see in a lot of Eastern art. But I think this one just, I don't think there are that many skins like this in the game, but there probably should be. I think this fits Assassins really well. Those big, tall red horns show up in tons of source material and media from movies, anime, TV, books, and placed in game with some stark red weaponry that matches the horns. For Shadowhunter, Deathblade, this could look really, really cool. Next is a Gunner Cyborg skin from a poster whose Korean name translates to Hotori Punch, and this one's pretty cool. You have the extra coat on top, but you have that kind of cyborg aesthetic on the eyes, which I think is meant to be a mask here since they are showing skin underneath the chin. But you kind of have that metal limbs, arms, and legs and face. tied together, and it's kind of a mystery who's really under there. You have hair, so I guess it's got that mixture. The way they've set this up is a twofold. The way that, at least I understand their explanation, is they have the light version and then they have the dark version. So this is the light version. This is like the holy, I guess, cyborg version, with this being the darker version. So you definitely have that cyborg aesthetic, obvious mixture of flesh and bone with metal and robotics here. I like the one arm, the wing on the back here. And of course the Argentinian desert hood with the gas mask on top, plus the sweet weaponry. So this would be sharpshooter, and I believe that on top of this would be scouter. So it's kind of like that SMG. It does have a longer barrel on it, but this would be for scouter here. Then you have the 3 weapons of Deadeye, and then you have artillerist on the bottom with a full big huge gun. Next is a warrior skin from a poster whose name translates to Yahoo Hong, and this one I like a lot. It has that kind of arc aesthetic. So you can see that they referenced one of the 7 arcs in the top here and just created a whole skin out of it. So I don't recall which arc this is. I'm gonna guess it's the one from Phaeton, but I don't remember the colors here. But this one came together really nicely. They put it in the cloak and the over armor, very covered up, but then it almost has this kind of like holy angelic horn arc shape coming up off the top with variations on the color. And I would love to see this for paladins. I mean, this is a very paladin heavy. It would match the color of the abilities as well, and having the horns and the other pieces sticking up is cool. And they included a paint over here, a little illustration showing what it would look like in the game. I'm even now just realizing there's gemstones here on the shoulder. They kind of intricately move their way. It's on the top of the knuckles here. It's on the other side, and then towards the base of the chest piece in the middle here. And of course, we need glowy arc style weapons. So this would be for Berserker, giant glowing element. Gun Lancer brings a lot more rock aesthetic, but it has these kind of I almost want to say they're lions, but the face is on either side of the hilt here. And of course, Paladin, the whiter version, the yellower version, could bring this in. And I think the weapon on the side, I think it just kind of fits into that Holy Knight Paladin aesthetic nicely. This one is a skin for Artist, actually, which is a specialist. It's a special class that hasn't been released in other regions yet, but I had to feature it just because it's so unique and cool. This one comes from a poster named Mara. It's so it seems, but it's that, that punk spray paint street art vibe. And with this going with the Artist that has a paintbrush as weapon, this would be a paint roller. Really cool. So it's just a cool aesthetic. Next in their techwear skin, this is actually a set. This they did one for the Gunslinger, which looks like this, and it's from a poster whose Korean name translates to Korean girl. I'm not sure what their in-game name actually is, but I'm trying my best to kind of keep the visibility there. But again, you have that kind of Argentinian overcoat kind of techwear vibe to it. Although this one has no hat, no hood cover, but it does have a very unique silhouette, which is very different, kind of streetwear, ripped up jeans, and then has this really unique coat. The same artist also did one for female martial artist. You can see the same kind of aesthetic here with the tech wear and the tubing and the extra jackets and pockets and bangles and everything. But for the female martial artist with a green tinge to it, which I really dig how this would translate to the weapons. I guess this would be Scrapper and War Dancer, which is basically just a ring. So you would have, there are almost no, there's like one or two martial artist weapons that are very thin like this, almost non-existent. Then you have a floating gear here for the Soul Fist, and then the Glaivier would have the glaive and the spear with this glowing liquid in the middle. I think based on this illustration, they must be a Glaivier main, because this must be how they want their Glaivier to look. So there you go. Next is a mage concept that tries to incorporate heavy armor, which is an interesting take. This is from a poster whose name translates to Kassaran, and this would be for mage. So very bulky with the heavy armor mixed in with other elements here, but it would be pretty cool to have this kind of look. Most of the mage skins are very thin and flowy and have thin fabric, so incorporating one that has heavy armor would be pretty cool. Next, we have another assassin skin, and this one kind of it blows me away a little bit. The detail is excellent. This one is the Argentine Goblin, and it reminds me of Ghost Runner a good bit. It does have that Oriental inspiration, but there's a lot of far future tech, cyberpunk tech mixed into it. I'm not sure how they ended up doing the horns coming from the forehead like this, but you could definitely see on the left here, Shadow Hunter with Death Blade, mixing these in. I think the hat would go a long way. Hats like these are always really fun because you can mix them with other outfits, and it adds this nice, like, I mean, it starts the shape at the top and then breaks it down and then kind of shows the weapons here. You can see this one coming together. This would be really cool to have in game. And here are the weapons they would include. I mean, obviously you've got a little bit of punk tech on the hilt, but the blades are a little more realistic, and the sheath being more realistic as well. And then you have these wicked shadow hunter shapes going every which way with all kinds of, hard to tell if it's organic or hard surface or what's going on there, but a super cool look. And I could not stop laughing at this one. So this would just be, I guess, the Giga Chad for the Warriors. It's in workout clothes, basketball clothes, and for Destroyer, it would just be this bar with weights on it that they would swing around and slam into people. With Berserker having a giant tennis racket with athletic wear. This one is wicked. Next comes from what seems like an anonymous artist. They just have a default account name listed on the forum. This would be for Gunner. I don't know why this makes me think of Detroit Become Human, but it does. Maybe it's just the tower scene where you're climbing the tower with your service gear, but this one's pretty cool. I would fit with these weapons that they've designed here. Next is a mage skin from a poster named Unlim, and this is the Wizard of the White Dragon is what they've named it. But you can see it's got this kind of lightning, this white lightning at the top. But I think with a lot of the lightning effects you'd get from the mage classes, this would look really cool. And they fit that into all the class weapon designs. The far right would be Bard, and the next to that would be Arcana, and then you'd have Sorceress and then Summoner next to each other as well. But it kind of, I don't really know. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Gurren Lagann a little bit, maybe a little bit of, I don't even know. There's a lot of inspirations coming in here, but it looks cool. And they have a paint over what that would look like in game on your mage, which would be pretty variant depending on what the customization is for your character. And for those that really want to be a Spartan warrior, here you go. So this would be pretty exposed, but very inspired. Looks like they're using the Omen skin for the glow inspiration in the top left there, but you'd be able to be your own Roman, Spartan, warrior, whichever inspiration you'd want, gladiator of some kind. And sometimes the simplest skin designs work the best. You have that round shield with the spears here for the gun lance. And for Paladin, Berserker, you could have these old school halberds or this scimitar looking or falcon looking kind of weapon. And this big old hammer stamper for Destroyer. And I can definitely see there being an audience out there, people that just want to be this, you know, Paladin, Berserker, Destroyer, and then Gun Lancer. But here you go. This would be a very, very simplistic design, but something that I can see a lot of people digging. Speaking of simple, we have a kimono design coming from a user whose name translates to Infinite Loa, and this would be for Assassin. As pictured, this would be Death Blades. You have the long blade and the two short swords on the back, but you can imagine what this would look like for Shadow Hunter or Reaper, as you could easily extend the same kind of blade design to the blades that Shadow Hunter has. But again, it's kind of a traditional kimono wrap. One side, like, you know, one shoulder off. A lot of white going on in here, and you can definitely see this being mixed with other skins and different tops. But this would be for Assassin. Next comes from a poster who says he's a game design or an art department student, third year right now, and their forum name translates to Who Is. I wish I had a better way to show this off, but this is Fire and Ice for the Warrior, and this one looks wicked. It's almost like you have sun and moon, light and darkness, fire and ice put together, but I would love to have these kind of skins for my warriors. Here you can see the side profiles, the back, the cloak. I love the fire cloak here. You know, it is real material, but you can see it kind of ripping up into tatters, and the gradient that they put on here makes it look like it's burning up into flames. And then the ice version kind of has this big angelic mantle on the back with a hood and a disguised face. And the weapons would look super cool. I like how the ice feel very matte and flat and simplistic in design, whereas the fire version, the solar version, that's got all these twists and turns and broken angles and silhouette breaks all over the place, and it looks like the Destroyer hammer has like this molten core in the middle of it. It looks really awesome. And of course, we'll give you the option to take the hood off if you wanted and show your character customization, which give a lot of different options in presentation for your warriors. Next is our submission from the poster Hinu, which we've seen one of before. But this one it kind of reminds me of Nuwa from Smite, the original Nuwa. But it's got this really wicked, there's just so much going on here. I think this would be really fun for all of the mage classes. It's got the Jade Dragon with a floating cloak mantle in the back, and then a very intricate weapon design, which might end up being too complicated to make its way in game and actually, you know, read well on screen, especially from a top-down isometric perspective, but a cool idea nonetheless. Next is another submission from a Korean name that translates to good trader, and this would be for male gunner. You can see some kind of Anubis Egyptian inspiration here. I almost feel like this is Destiny inspired, just the way it looks, but I would love to have a skin like this. I think this fits Deadeye. It could fit Sharpshooter, Artillerist, but it definitely has that kind of old Egyptian, but more sophisticated look to it, like future Arthurtinian, but still has that kind of old ancient Egyptian inspiration to it. The back mantle kind of reminds me of like a glide suit of sorts. It feels very official. It's almost like they're an officer or a commander of some kind. Definitely a person of high ranking status, bedazzled and dripping in gold and accessories. I feel like the weapon designs are a little simple compared to what's in the game already, but it definitely could fit with what it is, and I think it would make it a complete look for sure. Next comes from a poster named Yen, and this is another mage skin. I think the colors here would matter a lot. It looks like they do have some in-game reference for how this blue gritty would come out, but I think a lot of this skin and the vibe of it would come from just the color popping, maybe even having some glow or maybe a little bit of VFX or some kind of treatment to it that would make it pop. But I love the gradient and how it comes together here. I think this would fit all of the mage classes. It's got some mesh on the side. It has like this asymmetrical skirt design, and the weapons themselves are, I'm not even, I mean, you get a lot of stars in here, so I'm not even sure what to call this, but I think it all fits really well together nicely. I like how they put it on a water background, so maybe it is more Atlantis aquatic inspired kinda, but it looks cool. And I think for summoner, sorcerers, arcana, bard, all this would come together. The bard one's super complicated. Sorceress one's nice big profile, and you can stand with it there. I love how they included some of the cloth as well being attached to the sorceress weapon and the arcana weapon, so that would fit with the overall skin design. And it looks like the reference they're using here is like the baseboards for Trixian. So it's almost like this is like a Trixian style magic skin. I love it, and I can definitely see a lot of people digging this skin for their mage. Whew, and that's it. That's covering most of the posts that caught my attention on the post forums for the anniversary skins. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that you're looking forward to more skins in the West like I am. If you made it all the way to the end here, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Comment down below what your favorite skin design or concept was in this video. And yeah, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.